Hi, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. We are back with the glossary of legal terms. The first term today is inchoate offense. An inchoate offense arises when a person takes steps toward committing a crime but fails to complete the act. Examples include attempt, conspiracy, and solicitation. The law punishes such conduct to deter harmful preparations and planning. The severity of punishment often depends on how substantial the steps taken were toward the crime. Inchoate crimes allow law enforcement to intervene before the full harm occurs. The next term is indemnity or indemnification. Indemnity is a contractual obligation requiring one party to compensate another for loss or damage. Unlike insurance, indemnification often arises through direct agreement without pooling risk among many. It allocates liability, for instance, where one party agrees to hold another harmless from third-party claims or costs. Indemnity clauses frequently appear in commercial contracts, leases, and construction agreements. The effectiveness of indemnity depends on clear language, enforceability, and statutory limitations. The next term is illegal. Something is considered illegal when it is explicitly prohibited by statute, regulation, or authoritative legal principle. Illegal acts can result in criminal penalties, civil liability, or regulatory enforcement. Courts and regulators consistently interpret what qualifies as illegal conduct based on intent, harm, and a legislative purpose. Because legal systems presume individuals know the law, ignorance is usually not a valid defense. The determination of illegality guides both a prosecution and a remedy. The next term is inter vivos trust or transfer. An inter vivos trust or transfer occurs during the lifetime of the settlor or grantor. It contracts with testamentary arrangements that take effect upon death. Inter vivos structures help manage and distribute assets while alive, often offering tax, estate planning, or controlled benefits. Beneficiaries receive interest or income under terms set immediately. Such arrangements require proper documentation and may involve fiduciary duties to trustees. The next phrase is ipse dixit. Ipse dixit literally means he himself said it. It is used to criticize a statement relying on assertion rather than evidence. It implies unsupported logic or dogmatic assertions lacking substantive justification. In a legal argument, reliance on ipse dixit assertions is disfavored because they lack reasoning and authority. Courts expect argument grounded in precedent, evidence, or recent statutory interpretation. The term reminds practitioners to avoid a hollow rhetoric. The next term is infraction. An infraction is a minor violation of law that it does not carry the possibility of jail time, typically non-criminal offenses like traffic violations. Infractions result in fines or administrative penalties rather than criminal records. They are handled in specialized courts or tribunals with simplified procedures. Because there is no right to trial by jury, due process protections may be limited, though notice and opportunity to respond are preserved. Infractions aim to enforce compliance while reducing legal burdens of law-level offences. The next term is illegitimate. Illegitimate child or status. A child is considered illegitimate if born to parents not legally married under law in jurisdictions that historically made this distinction. Although many modern systems have abolished their special legal status or discrimination, some inheritance and adoption laws still reference legitimacy. The concept historically affected rights to succession, titles, and familial property. Courts now focus on ensuring equal rights regardless of legitimacy to avoid discrimination. Legacy cases may still involve distinctions under older statutes or testamentary clauses. The next term is incorporation. Incorporation refers to creating a legal entity, such as a corporation or company, under statutes that confer separate legal personality. The corporate entity can own property, incur liability, sue, and be sued distinct from its members or directors. Incorporation shields individual members from personal liability for the business's obligations, limited liability. Formation requires filing articles, observing cooperative formalities, and electing governance structures. Incorporated status carries duties such as fiduciary obligations, statutory compliance, and a disclosure. The next term is impeachment. In a legal context, impeachment refers to the formal process by which a public official is charged with a misconduct, often in constitutional or parliamentary systems. Separately, in evidence law, it refers to challenging a witness's credibility during cross-examination. In both contexts, impeachment aims to maintain integrity, one by sanctioning office holders, the other by ensuring reliability with their testimony. Legislative impeachment typically requires a vote in a lower chamber and a trial in an upper chamber or specialized tribunal. Evidence-based impeachment can include introducing contradictory prior statements or demonstrating bias to discredit a witness. The next term is implied. Implied a contract, warranty, terms, etc. Implied terms in a contract are provisions not written but assumed by law due to custom, statute, or necessity. Common examples include implied warranties of merchantability or habitability in leases and sales contracts. Even absent an explicit agreement, courts may enforce such terms to ensure fairness or conformity with a legislative policy. Implied covenants enforce good faith and a fair dealing where direct language is missing. Recognizing implied terms helps parties understand their legal expectations beyond their formal wordings. The next phrase is indeterminate sentence. An indeterminate sentence is a criminal sentence specifying only minimum and maximum durations, allowing release via parole after satisfying certain conditions. Rather than a fixed term, it provides flexibility and emphasizes rehabilitation. The parole board or relevant agency decides when the prisoner may be released after the minimum term. Critics argue indeterminate sentences can lead to subjective parole decisions. Supporters highlight a correctional discretion and a public safety. This sentencing model aims to tailor punishment to offender progress and a risk. The next term or phrase is incorporated. Incorporated by reference. Incorporation by reference is a legal technique by which external documents or terms are deemed a part of an agreement or statute without restating them fully. It enables parties or legislators to include detailed or voluminous provisions succinctly. The external document must be clearly identified and accessible at the time of contracting or legislation. Courts enforce incorporated provisions when intent and clarity are established. This approach aids contractual clarity while avoiding redundancy. The next phrase is independent contractor. An independent contractor is a person or entity engaged under a contract or performs services without being treated as an employee. The contractor controls the method and a sequence of performance, bears risk, and is taxed independently. Classification matters for liability allocation, tax treatment, and regulatory complaints. The nature of the arrangement is considered. Control, independence, remuneration to determine status. Misclassification can result in legal penalties, back taxes, and labor violations. The next phrase is independent executor. An independent executor is appointed to administer a deceased person's estate without a continuous court supervision. This role typically arises under probate law to streamline distribution and reduce administrative burdens. The executor collects assets, pays debts and taxes, and distributes property to beneficiaries according to the will or intestacy laws. Court's involvement remains available in cases of dispute or suspected misconduct. Independent executorship promotes efficiency while preserving oversight when necessary. The next term is information criminal procedure. An information is a charging document prepared by a prosecutor rather than a grand jury that formally accuses someone of crime. It sets out the offense, the factual basis, and is served on the accused to initiate a prosecution. Some legal systems use information for lesser or summary offences, with the grand juries reserved for serious felonies. The accused may challenge the sufficiency of the information via motion before trial. Filing of an information initiates judicial proceedings and protects against arbitrary charges. The next phrase is in pari delicto. In pari delicto translates to in equal fault and a vast legal remedy when both parties share equal wrongdoing. The doctrine prevents courts from aiding parties whose own illicit conduct is at an equal or greater fault in the matter. Often applied in contract disputes involving fraudulent or illegal schemes. Courts employ it to maintain integrity of judicial processes and not reward parties engaged in wrongdoing. Exceptions sometimes arise when one party is less culpable or public interest demands relief. The next term is infancy or infant. Infancy denotes the legal status of a minor, typically under 18, who lacks full capacity to make binding decisions. Contracts entered by an infant are voidable at the minor's election until reaching majority or within a reasonable time thereafter. The doctrine protects minors from exploitation but permits enforceability of contracts for necessities. Courts may appoint legal guardians or requires court approval for significant decisions by infants. Laws ensure contracts, bills, or transactions involving minors serve their best interests.